you tell me about the first time you fell in love? How did you know you were in love, and how did you feel about it?
Cool. So the first time I fell in love, honestly, was quite recent. Only reason why, I know it's crazy. Only reason why, because before I wasn't really emotional type of thing, and then you kind of just get something just ticks type of thing, and then just go hot and cold. Not like hot and cold, but the things that you don't care about, you start to care about much more. And it's one of them ones where you begin to change and kind of, not like a compromise, but you kind of understand, oh yeah, this is this and this is this. Especially with the person that you meet as well, like, well, me personally anyway, like the way she understands me and kind of I understand her. It's just so, bizarre. Yourself?
First time that I fell in love, I was 16 years old, just getting out of secondary school. And I literally looked at it like it was a conscious decision. Because at that time I went through my phases, my crushes and things like that. And I already sort of made my mind up for, I like a girl like that, I don't like a girl like this. I like a girl like that, I don't like a girl like this. And when I met this girl in particular, I was like, wow, everything, just like you're saying, everything clicked so well that I was like, Theo, if you fall in love with her, you do realize that she can put a shotgun to your heart and shatter it to pieces, literally. Right? You know that. So it's either you keep going with the way you're going, or you take the plunge and fall in love and go for it. And I was like, well, I'm just man enough to take that risk. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm ready. So I thought I was ready at that time. I did it, and no regrets. It changed my life.
Sick. Even at 16?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, dude.
So how do you feel about it? So recently I was watching this documentary series called Black Love. It's incredible, so if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. And so one of the things that, I can't remember what his name is, but Erica's husband, and he said, I can't remember. Anyway, so the thing was that if you wake up in the morning one day and you realise that you're in love with the woman, like, are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to try and like sabotage that situation, or are you going to try and make the most out of it? And I think obviously it might be different when you were 16 to what it is now. So
it's definitely grown and progressed, and I think that's the whole nature of it. The whole nature of being in a committed relationship, for you and your spouse, it's intentionally created for the two of you to grow. It's for growth. It's for the two individuals itself to grow to a point where you can't grow anymore, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I believe that for sure. So that's why when I was 16, that was the first time I fell in love, and I kind of knew that. So I was like, oh my God, dude, you're gonna grow with this girl. Like, you could potentially marry her someday. You could do this, you could do that. So that's why it took me a while to really be like, you know what, let's do it.
Are you guys still together?
No, we're not anymore, unfortunately. It didn't work out. I grew, but she had a lot of baggage and things that she didn't want to address internally. And I wanted to address a lot of things internally. I wanted to grow, and I wanted to have a healthy relationship. But she was so used to guys who were not just coming in and coming out, but also she was used to guys who would take advantage of her and screw her over. And after they break up, they're like, yo, you're a fucking bitch. So sorry, can we curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So she was so used to guys who would screw her over, and when they would break up, they would be like, you're a fucking bitch, I hate you, I'm never talking to you again. And then they'll hit her up a week later, be like, I miss you, baby, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't like that. When we broke up, I was like, you know what? If this is what you want, cool, I'm cool with it. And she was like shell-shocked because she was expecting me to be like those guys. you know? And I was like, no, I don't hate you at all. Like, you were the love of my life at one point. You helped me. So she was just like, what? You're really not mad at me? No, I'm not. As a matter of fact, I got love for you. I don't love you the same way, but I got love for you, you know? And she's still scratching her head about that today.
Imagine.
So, it's for real, for real.
What you doing? How did you
For me, it was quite different because when I was younger, women attention was always there. Yeah. And you just kind of get to a point in your life to think, yeah, they're there, just kind of ignore it. So went on and on, years after years. And the craziest thing is that the girl that we're with today is the fact that I've known her for over, like 3 years. And it's only recently that we've kind of just clicked and kind of realized that, oh, rah, we're in it for the long term type of thing. So it's just how timing can play like a big factor in like a relationship or anything. So like even before, like 3 years ago, like I didn't really see her. Like I knew her, she knew me, and like we kind of knew like, oh, he's doing his thing, she's doing her thing, and we just didn't think, nah, there's no way that it's gonna happen. And like when I look back at it, I'm just thinking, it's like it's crazy because it's like you're trying to think of a logical explanation for it, but it actually isn't.
Sometimes you don't need a logical explanation.
Yeah, literally, there's no logical explanation for it, and literally just go with the flow. Like, and I think the fact that is because we're both Christian and we're kind of like in that spiritual journey, like everything's so in sync and aligned together. Especially when you've got God in the situation, everything just feels just grounded.
You know what? Yeah. You are not the only person I've heard that from, and I think faith plays such an important role in a relationship, and to even evolve it from a religious standpoint, but more to a faith standpoint, when two of you believe in something, that is so strong. That's a big brick in the foundation of your relationship.
100%, man.
Major, absolutely.
Jeez, can you tell me about the last time you cried and what about?
The last time I cried was 2 weeks ago. I got news that my grandmother passed away, and it was one of those things that I was always for me. I was really close to my grandmother, and close in a way in which our relationship was really, we had a really open rapport with each other, a really open, honest rapport. I knew she was in the sort of evening stage of her life. You know, like for us, we're young in a traditional sense. We're sort of like in the morning, you know, still in the morning period of our lives, going into the afternoon maybe. But she was definitely in the evening stage. She was 85 years old, and she knew like, I'm not going to be around forever. And, you know, I'm aging, I got arthritis and this and that. So I would be open with her, and we would talk about her life, and we'd talk about things, and really get things off our chest. So when she died, I actually cried tears of liberation and tears of rejoicement in a way, because she's free from sort of, in a spiritual sense, the bondages of our bodies. So I was like, you know, you did it. You know, you're going home. You know, and I'll see you. I'll see you home. You know. So I was happy in that way, but also sad that she's not physically going to be here to say crazy stuff like, you know, she's West Indian, so she'll be like, I ain't feel cold. It's cold, man. I feel cold. You know, stuff like that. What about yourself?
The last time I cried was in July. The reason behind that was I lost a large sum of money. And it was one of the ones where when I look back at it, I'm just thinking, how did you manage to do that? But when you look at it now, like, it's no biggie. But even when I look back at it when I was crying, I was thinking, yo, big man to be crying about money. You know? So, literally, no, that's not really a normal thing to do. But I think the fact, the summer it was, and what I was trying to do with it between them, kind of just made me realize like, you've taken a big L. But hey, take L's all the time, so
yeah, man.
Just live and learn,
dude. It's all part of our journey, you know.
For real.
All right. So, what does be a man mean to you, and how does it compare with society's definition?
Okay. How to be a man and how it compares to society. Me personally, as men, we don't like to rely on others. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I can rely on God is a big step in my manhood. In society, like, we're always classed as the powerful, the alpha male, the authoritative, the superior one. But we need to understand that there's actually a bigger force out there, which I'm saying. And if you kind of like literally, like, if you're able to have some humility and rely on God, you kind of realize your growth in manhood, which I'm saying. So, me personally, that's what I'm saying.
Dope, man. Yeah, I firmly agree with that, man, because like we were saying before, with faith, it's such an important tool to have when moving forward in this journey of our lives, you know. For me, I feel like society's archetype of a man is still Stone Age based.
100%.
It's based from the days when men were the hunter-gatherers, and you know, the men were, you know,
the workers.
They were workers, and look, it was fact at that time. You know, there's science to back it up that the males were bigger, they were stronger, they could rip things, they could make weapons, they could, you know, really have survival skills in that way.
Yeah, true.
And women had survival skills in another way.
Yeah.
But we've evolved so much as a species that we're so intelligent that it still baffles me that we have an archetype that's still like that. It still echoes today in society in a lot of ways. So, but for me, the term "be a man" is for me, how I carry it is this sort of like just being a decent human being is about taking responsibility. And so for me, maturity means taking on a certain level of responsibility. You know, and with that, you evolve as a person. Like, say, for example, you can have a 50-year-old who doesn't take a lot of responsibility, and they can be as immature as a child. But then you got, say, people like, you know, not trying to boost, toot our own home, or you got people like me and you who are like in our mid-20s, and we take a certain amount of responsibility, and we have a maturity level is different. You know, it's not the best. We're still working at it.
Definitely.
You know, it's a work in progress, but you know, it's just at a certain level that is manageable for us, and we're aware of it.
I think that's the greatest thing about it, the fact that we're aware of our growth and development. Once you kind of realize that, you kind of realize you've got like a target, a goal, you've got something to achieve and move forward about. So
yes,
smart. So who do you look up to as examples of being a man growing up?
You know what? Growing up, I would watch my father. I literally would study all the male figures in my family. I was really fortunate to grow up with my dad. So I would look to my dad and all of my uncles, and I would study their behavior. Me and my dad, we have opposite attributes. Yeah, we have opposite values. So we get into arguments a lot. And one of the key things that trumps him is just sort of stumps him every time, every argument. I drop this line where I tell him, I've been studying you for 24 years. I've been watching you. Like, I've been listening to you. I've been watching you. And you don't, I told that to my boys one time. They're like, if you were my son, I'd love you, but I hate you at the same time, because I don't know how to come back from that. Because it's true. And I studied him and my uncles and how all the great things that they do, and all the things that I'm like, that don't make sense. That's weird. So I took a lot of attributes from those studies. I also looked at music artists that I liked growing up to as well. I just had a certain feeling about guys in music that I love, because I love music so much. So I look at guys like for me, Pharrell Williams is one of my biggest heroes and one of my biggest teachers. He's literally like my professor. And he's been that way since I was like 12 years old, you know? And I used to study Jigga Man, Jay-Z, like it was a college course. I wanted to know how this guy got so cool and how did he make these moves. And even in his moves of business too, I was like, man, this is how he carries it. How do you do that? And all of these sort of pieces sort of makes me who I am today. Cool. What about yourself?
Me personally, I had my dad with me. Yeah. But with me, I just had a different counterpart. I won't say I actually looked up to anyone. I kind of I was literally like a lost puppy in the world. Kind of just trying to like figure out everything out myself. I think the type of person I was like, yeah, I'm gonna know this, I wanna know this, I wanna know this, I wanna know that. So I'm going to go and find out. Yeah. So it wasn't one of them ones where I actually looked at an individual. However, the environment kind of led me to situations and how I dealt with situations as well. So I think it was more of the environment rather than man himself. Yeah. That kind of pulled me through everything. Definitely. So, yeah, man.
It all helped contribute you to seek.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It says, can you tell me about your family dynamic growing up? What does your ideal family structure look like in the future? Not necessarily applicable to everyone.
Cool. So my family dynamics was, I've got 3 sisters. I'm the only boy, mom and dad. Growing up, only boy was pretty, it was weird because I've got an older sister and then 2 younger. So literally I'm like the middle child, but I'm the boy. So like I felt entitled to everything. You know what I'm saying? So I felt entitled to everything, whether it's literally playing PS in the front room and then when I watch it, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. Like,
you were the prince in the house.
Yeah, literally, exactly. And the fact that my dad was like in and out at home, so it was like, rah, it's me against 4 other women. I'm just thinking, it's a bit peak. So I think that's another reason why I wasn't at home so often. Yeah. So dynamics there, it speaks for itself. There's more females in the house. However, I think having more females in the house, you kind of have female tendencies. So like having more emotion, but I won't call myself emotional, but I'm aware of it type of thing. So you kind of know how to treat a female or and all those small things, but it's just there, man.
For sure. I definitely connect with that. I grew up. I'm really an only child, but my mom's family. I grew up with my mom's family, which is absolutely massive. She had 7 brothers and sisters, and they all got a lot of kids. So we all as cousins grew up together. We all sort of adopted the brother-sister roles with each other. So it feels like I have like 12 siblings, you know? It feels like you have 12 siblings, but you all go back to your own house at the end of the day. So it was really balanced in a way. So say, for example, if we'll get into fights, we'll be like, I hate you. Okay, fine. I'm going. That's it. And you'll just go home and you'll just go to your own room, just hang out. And you're just like, wow, so-and-so was really crappy today. Oh, well, I still love him anyway. It's all good. And that was like what our childhood was like. I had a lot of aunties growing up too, just like you, a lot of women around me. And so I would listen to them complaining about their husbands and just like, oh my God, can you believe him? He's drinking again. Talk to him.
That's another woman's like favorite line. He's drinking.
Talk to him. Talk to him.
No.
What? I'm telling you, aunties especially, especially when you hit the age of like 35 upwards. Yeah, I'm sure drinking has popped up at least once every month.
That's crazy.
100%.
Yeah, you know,
100%.
I'm sure there's some kind of correlation there between the amount of complaints the woman makes and the amount of drinking the guy does.
Yeah.
There's gotta be
it's like another excuse for.
There's some kind of formula there, you know. And I used to tell him like he's drinking because. Look, if he's abusive in his drinking, he's not happy about something. You need to talk to your husband. You need to talk to him. Or if he's afraid to do something, afraid to express himself, to tell you what's on his mind, there's got to be somehow a stage for him to do that, an open rapport for him to do that. And I think that's a key factor that leads to failed relationships, because a lot of my aunts and uncles, some of them have filed for divorce, and it's hard for the kids, you know. So open communication, so it's easier said than done, but it's important, man. No doubt about that. And my dad's family is similar. He's got 5 brothers and sisters. However, their family, everything's really quiet. You know, they don't want to rock the boat. You know, if things are going on, like, things are going on. Whereas my mom's family, things are going on. When things are happening, my mom's family is just like, oh, hell no, I'm not having that with you. Oh, no. No, you get your ass out of here. Not in my house. No, this is not happening. You know, it's like that. So.
What do you guys? What does both of you? What are your ideal
structures?
Yeah.
A perfect structure. Me personally, I think wife, kids, me being at home as frequent as possible. I think having kids and having a man in the house kind of sets the tone. As well as obviously having both parents in the house sets the tone. It kind of just aligns their life to the right direction, honestly. So
definitely.
I think you agree.
I feel you for sure. I heard a lot of people say that they want to feel, especially like a lot of my girlfriends in the past, they're like, and I always ask them this question, like, what kind of mother do you want to be? And a lot of them have said, I want to be like their best friend. I want them to come to me, feel like they can always come to me about something. I want them to feel like they can tell me anything, and we can go shopping, have a good time, and we could talk about boys, we talk about anything together. That's one of along those lines, what they say. For me, I would love to have that best friend relationship, but really what's important is the open rapport, the open, honest rapport. We don't have to be best friends with my you know, knock on wood, you know, God willing, I have children someday. It would be really cool to have a best friend relationship like that, but open, honest, and transparency is so important. That's what I would really have. That's a great foundation for me.
Cool. Another thing I would say is a lot of our generation, especially, they say, I want to be like this with my kids.
Couple goals.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you need to realize, are you like that with your parent? Do you know what I'm saying? See, it's always like a foundation you need to build on upon. Like, you can't just click over one line, I'm going to be like this with my child.
Also, I feel like some people like to be the opposite of what they have. And they start chasing families or a facade that they feel like this is real. Like, we'll take the Kardashians, for example. Like, the Kardashians are they put their family out there for everything. And so so people who watch that show, you know, they might look at their family and either feel on one side really relatable because part of the success of them is that they're super relatable. But also there's another side to it in which they look so good doing it. You know, they look good, like the aesthetic, you know, the glamour, the glitz, the fame, the this, the that, you know, what Lil Saint is wearing, you know, what Lil North is wearing. I want my baby to wear that. And, you know, it's just there's two sides to it. But, you know, I don't knock anyone who looks at a couple like, say, like John Legend and Chrissy, that's her name? I think so. I'm sorry. But they'll look at them like, oh my God, they're such couple goals. I want to be like them. I don't knock you at all. I don't blame you. You know, if it appeals to you, you go for it. If that's what your heart desires, you go for that. And yeah, man, it's all good in that way. But when it gets to a point where it just gets superficial, like you don't accept what you have, you don't accept who you are, and that's when it gets problematic.
What was the most difficult period of your life, and how did you get through it?
Probably the darkest time in my life was when I had that first breakup of my first love. I didn't know how to deal with it at all because, as I mentioned before, I knew that she could break my heart to pieces, and I made the decision to do it. Yeah. And she literally did smash my heart to pieces. And I was literally at a fork in the road moment in which I was like, do I never do this again? Because this hurts so much. Do I never do it again? Or do I choose a way in which I learn from it, take a road of higher power, so to say? Started praying a lot more at that time. And I was just like, I don't want to be like these guys at school who screw these girls over and wreck their lives up. Fair enough, it feels like my life is wrecked up at this moment, but I don't want anyone to feel this pain ever. So it just got to a point after about 3 months of feeling in the dark. I was just like, I can't, how am I going to allow people not to, it was that moment I decided that if I want people not to feel this way, then I need to learn for myself. How do I not get here again? And so it took me on a huge spiritual journey that led me to where I am today, and it gave me so much peace and awareness and intelligence about life itself. So, but it was difficult. I fell a lot. When I got back into dating again, I messed up a bunch of times, and but it all contributed to my evolution. Looking back on it, if I was to give any advice on it to anyone, I would give advice similar to what Steve Jobs was famous for saying. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he says something along the lines of connecting the dot backwards. How it all makes sense when you connect the dots backwards. But it doesn't make sense when you connect the dots forward. You can't do it. You don't know where you're going. But when you connect the dots backwards, everything makes sense. Everything happens for its reason. So.
Definitely. For me, it was nothing related to anyone else. It was me going through. I used to be an athlete when I was younger, and I torn my hamstrings during a competition. So literally, that period was just, I won't call it depressing, but borderline depressing, because you change your doctors here, hospital this, physiotherapy this, and literally that was literally for like a good 8 months. So literally for that 8 months period, it was literally repeat, doctors this, prescribe this, it was just crazy. And I think, especially being young, you just don't know how to deal with it, because you believe that, you're so athletic, you're so ready to get back into the sport you love, and it just feels like, you're not coming to do this again, type of thing. Like even after the 8 months, like went back into running, but it just didn't feel the same no more. And I think that kind of just changed my aspect, but the whole perspective of life. Like these things happen, type of thing. How I got over it was pretty much the physiotherapy, going into the gym as well, because that's what I'm in right now. So you know what they say, like your darkest moments can lead to your brightest moments, honestly. Absolutely. So even with physiotherapy, the way my physiotherapist kind of helped me literally build confidence, have my passion for sport, obviously not particularly that sport itself, but sport in general, because when I went through before physiotherapy and obviously going through the injuries, like it was not looking bright at all, honestly. So yeah, man, honestly, I think just going through that and just obviously looking back at it, I'm just thinking, wow, you've been through some tough times. So when I look at it back then and obviously look at stuff now, I just think you've been through tougher times. So whatever you face now, you shouldn't really worry about it, because you can overcome anything you put ahead of you. So yeah, man.
Has your definition of being a man changed?
Yes. Reason being, I was so clued up into the society, what society tells us what a man is. But once you kind of realize, and once you kind of go through that spiritual journey, you just realize, rah, there's two opposites, like literally two opposites. Like literally, you need to go through a spiritual journey and believing in God, like everything is like rely on Him, and He will like prosper. He will give you strength, and when you're weary, He will make you strong. Like, but obviously obviously the society side of it, like everything is you. Like everything's like the pressure's on you. And another thing I would say, like a lot of men can't handle the pressure. Like they put too much pressure upon themselves and just literally break. Do you know what I'm saying? So one thing I would say is like, even though it's hard for a man to rely on something else, but honestly, literally the greatest experience, and literally my journey is literally prospering as we speak.
I can feel that too, man. For sure. I believe it. You know, for me, on my perspective of being a man, it's definitely changed. Similarly to what you were saying about taking the road of enlightenment and the road of faith. It allows you to see that for a lot of our lives, we were sort of believed or sort of taught to be in an act, sort of say. Sort of like we're acting on stage, playing a particular character that all of a sudden all of us guys have to play the same character. So it makes things really competitive. And you can imagine how intimidated men are when women get in the workforce and do things better than us. Because they're like, holy crap, they can do it better than us. We can't allow them to do that. That's why we got to pay them less. And that's why we got to keep them as secretaries. Don't let them rise to the top. Don't make them CEOs. Don't make them CTOs. Don't make them CCOs. No, don't do that. Keep them down there. And that is a dying formula. We're not actors on the stage. We're complete whole human beings. We all have a certain amount of value to each other, and that hit that old idea out the park.
It's true, man. Honestly.
You know, it's just superficial, the old way. You know. But hopefully one day it'll look nice in a textbook, in a history book, you know, to tell kids someday, you know, back in the day, men and women never used to be really equal. You know, those were dark times for a couple millennia.
So does the inaccuracy of men in the media affect how you see yourself?
The inaccuracy of men. It doesn't affect how I see myself. At all. Not at all. Because now I know, or I have a better understanding of who I am, and I'm trying to figure out my purpose for being here. So when I look at other men in the media, I admire them for who they are. And that's why I can look at Pharrell Williams and say, man, you are an amazing person. You're a great soul or a great teacher. And I can take inspiration from that because I try to see people as they are. I don't like to assume and create fantasies in my head. It's like that, so it doesn't really affect me.
I think I agree with that as well. Once you kind of figure out your purpose on Earth, kind of have like a sense of direction. So you kind of like everything around you is just like a trance. Like it's just, it doesn't phase you at all. This type of thing, especially the media, even though it plays a big part in the world right now, but kind of like has no effect on me whatsoever.
Well, you know what? You know, we really do control the media.
No, true.
We control the tone and the landscape itself. They're really the sort of like the blowhorns, or they're sort of like the loudspeakers blasting what we're talking about, and that's why you know, platforms like this are so important.
Yeah, that's true.
So that we can have these conversations and sort of change the tone. And I see it on my Twitter line all the time. I see it. People are getting woke. Like, people are really realizing that I can love myself more. And it's absolutely amazing. It's like a crazy dynamic shift in the perceptions of us, like, young people. So that gives me a lot of hope for the future.
It's true. The craziest thing about it as well, those that are watching this video, they'll be thinking, wow, I want to be like that, I want to be like that. I'm saying, it's crazy how they just like view the video and just think, yeah, that's had the impact on me. I might want to change this.
Yeah. But, or even, sorry to talk over you, but even they might hear something that we're talking about and be like, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. That's what I'm trying to tell my friends. Like, this is what I'm trying to say. Look, guys, watch this video. This is what I'm trying to say. This is what I was trying to say in the club the other day when I was like, yo, there's too many hoes up in here, blah, blah, blah. You know? Something like that.
It's crazy how, I don't know, sometimes men, when they hear it from a friend, they don't want to listen. But when they hear it from someone else that they don't know, or just a random like video link, they're thinking, raw.
That was what one of the couples on Black Love said. One of the wife, they'd been like, she hated him. And she said that she had gotten to a point where she got tired of telling him, and one day he was listening to like a radio station, and what she'd been telling him, he heard on the radio, and then he was like, "Oh my god, I have to change."
That's what I've been trying to tell you my whole life.
And she's like, "I've been telling you this, but you don't listen to me."
Crazy, man. It's so crazy. I don't even know why. Like, I think it's some fine tuning in a man's head that, we know you got love for us, but. Yeah, cool. But someone else tells them, we're just thinking, I hear that.
That's a king.
I hear that.
That's me. The highest suicide rate in the UK was for men aged 40 to 44. The highest suicide rate in the Republic of Ireland was for men aged 25 to 34.
Male rates remain constantly higher than female suicide rates across the UK and Republic of Ireland.
Have you ever considered this as an option?
Hell no. No, I've never actually considered it. I've never thought about even doing it. I even just wonder, literally, your mental state to even think about being suicidal. Personally, I just think you must be so closed up, you don't want to tell no one anything. I think that's literally how you get there. Closing up, don't tell no one anything. You're literally boiling your emotions, what you're going through, the experiences, everything, the environment, and just one day you just wake up and think, I'm not trying to be here anymore. But honestly, I don't think that's the best way to solve it, because even though you don't want to be here no more, but everyone on earth has a purpose. Like, what you're going through right now might be that same situation or whatever it is that kind of makes you progress in life. So I think that's for those that are having suicidal thoughts. Please don't do it. Just don't do it.
No, man, it's crazy. It's deep, but it's totally understandable. I understand. Like, for example, I was watching a documentary about families in the lowest caste of India, and how some men, they're so poor that they take out loans to provide for their families, to build houses, or to even buy a car, or to buy groceries. And a lot of men in India, because they can't pay the loan, they commit suicide because the loans are so high.
Interest in it as well, so it's just scorching.
Absolutely. And even for that's even in a sense of a bank loan. You could go to your neighbor and ask for cash, or ask a neighborhood gather up, or a neighborhood leader, and be like, hey, I want some money to get my girl into a good school. and maybe it could be so high it's impossible to pay because in those communities they make less than $2 a day, £2 a day, so I understand to a certain point of the amount of pressure that men go under and the amount of pressure that men put on themselves.
100%.
Like you, actually, unlike you, for a tiny fragment point after that breakup of my first love, there was a tiny point of me that thought, should I just end it or not? And I didn't entertain the thought because I wanted to consciously understand what I just asked myself. Because I was coming home on the train and I was wondering, I was so sad and just drained, emotionally, mentally drained, that I looked at the track and I was just like, what if I just went in there? And fortunately for me, my sense of faith is a lot, tremendously stronger than my sense of insecurity. So I was simply guided to go home and don't do nothing crazy like that. Don't freak out. You have a bigger role to play here. 100%, we're in a way, we're all pieces of a gigantic, beautiful mosaic in life here. And if you just sort of take a step back to look at how beautiful everything is, and then to see where you are, to know that you're a part of this whole big thing, big, beautiful, vibrant piece of work that's art of life, man. I think the opposite of taking your own life, you would actually want to serve others. I think that's huge. If you can find value in yourself that you want to serve others, that's such a huge cure, not just for you, but for everyone. Who knows who knows how many lives you can touch. Literally. I'll send out like a tweet or a status or a quote, or I'll read a book and I'll even take a picture of the page of the book and I'll put on my Instagram story or something like that, and I'll get DMs of people who are like, I needed that. Thank you. I needed that. I'm going through something in my life. I needed that right now. Thank you so much. And that sense to know that I'm valued like that, I was like, this is how we got to use our platforms.
Especially with that, do you tend to find females more often to enter your DM than males?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's another reason why the male rate is much more higher. Females are, when they know how to connect to emotion, and they know how to express themselves much more than men can do.
Yes.
A lot of things that females can handle, men cannot do emotionally, and I think that build up of emotion, they don't know how to deal with it, and applied pressure just makes them makes them lose it.
Absolutely. I mean, the guys that hit me up in DMs about something about what I posted, they find me really relatable. And that's so important. I think when trying to convey a really important message to other young men is to be relatable to them. Like say, for example, you and I, we just met and we just sort of clicked and we're just finding different ways how we can relate to each other, because who knows, we probably experienced stuff in our life where we were like, this is important to find common ground with people. And you got people in this world who, they live their lives with such fear of finding common ground with different people, and that's where prejudice roots. Those are the roots of prejudice and racism and sexism and discrimination. That fear of, wow, this is me and you are you. We're different, and we're always going to be different. And so you stay over there across your line and I'll stay over here and we'll have a nice life. And that is just recipes for disaster, you know?
Can you share a piece of advice you would give to another man?
There's a lot, man.
So much, man.
Pay attention to your woman, man. Pay attention to your women. Pay attention, man.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like
relying on her or whatever.
Yeah. But not even just like their girlfriend or their wife, but pay attention to the women in your life. Because the women are they're central pieces for us. And it actually doesn't even matter what your sexual orientation is, whether you're a gay guy or you're a straight guy. It doesn't matter. Pay attention to the women in your life because that's where the real gems are for generations. Just like how we were talking about earlier, for generations, for millennia, us men have been sort of pigeonholed in this Stone Age mentality and blah blah blah, but women are the creators of life. Women maintain life. Women have the gems to really take care of life. That's why we call Mother Nature, not Father Nature.
Father Nature, for real.
Okay, you know, and
the motherland and everything.
The motherland. What's father? Whatever. Whatever. All right. That don't sound right. You know, because think about it. We call it the motherland when we return to our roots and return to a sense of inner peace, belonging, value. And so, look, dude, the hints are all there. Pay attention to the women in your life because we definitely have, and we got a lot of gems from that, and it really helped elevate us to a point where we can enrich the lives of others for not just today, but for generations to come, man. And it's dope, man. It's amazing. It's priceless, man. Priceless.
Just to add on to that as well, with women as well, like they've actually been from early times, they've always been brought up to be that caring figure. Like even when they're young, they're brought up with what? Dollies. You have to be selfless. This and that. Like it's all like they've all been in tune to be this type of thing, and like you just have to look at them and think, wow, us men were different, women are different, but when they both interlink, you just kind of like there's things that a woman will learn from a man, and obviously there's a lot of things that men learn from women. Another thing I would mention is being prideful. Like us men, we think we know, literally know everything. Like knowledge is power. Shouldn't be scared to know something new or willing to learn something new. Like I can't lie, I've learned a lot from this man. Honestly, like be real. And it's literally a development process. Like you need to learn who you are and what works best for you. Once you kind of realize that you kind of drop all your self-ego and how prideful you become and your willingness to learn and grow and develop as a man, then honestly I think that defines manhood itself. So
that's